Hello, welcome to Diary of a Creator. I am Victoria, the soul led career coach, and this is a channel for ambitious, freedom seeking souls who refuse to settle for ordinary. So, if you're feeling stuck in a life or a career that no longer fits, you're starting to question your path and craving something more freedom, fulfillment, alignment, then you are in the right place. So, my energy might be just a little bit low today. I've caught a little bit of a virus of what's going on. It feels very counterintuitive to have a cold in Bali, but this is where we're at. But I still wanted to come on and record this today because this is really something that you might be sensing wherever you are in your journey. I still get this question, and I want to touch on it is how do you actually know that you are going in the right direction? And by right direction, I mean the direction that is true for you, the one that's actually going to get you what you want, which is the fulfillment and joy and all of these emotions that come up when we think about creating a life that we truly actually want to live. At the end of the day, the only thing that can actually truly guide us to our true path is our own inner guidance, our own inner compass. So no one else can map it out for us. It has to come from within and then mapped out. Now, we're not really taught to do it that way, right? We're taught to very much externally look outside of us for all of the ways that we could go, the potential paths, and then we digest and sit on it rather than actually coming from inside and then waiting or allowing obvious choices or opportunities to appear. And this question really comes up from a place of a lack of trust and doubt, right? Because the ego will naturally want to bring in some sense of control to where we're going. The ego wants to know where we are going. It wants to know step A right through to B, C, D. It wants to know that. And this is why we come up against this question. How do I know? What it's indicating is our connection to our own inner guidance, our own inner compass is not strong enough that we're at a place where we can trust it. And because when we're going down a path that is right for us, there's going to actually be a lot of uncertainty and not knowing. In fact, Alan Watts even has a quote around this, is if you can see the path laid out in front of you, chances are you're on someone else's path. And bringing all of that in, no wonder this question comes up so many times, right? Because we're really being called into a place of not knowing if we're on the right path. We might have the end goal and the North Star, but we don't actually know in any given moment where we are versus it or if what we're doing is getting you there. But there are signs and synchronicities and things to watch out for. And also, if this question keeps coming up for you, then it's indicating that your work and where you really need to be focused in on is in. Because the only thing that can ever guide us to the true path, our true path, the right path, is our own inner guidance. No one else can map it out for us. It has to come from within. And there's a lot of work around that because a lot of us are not tuned in with that voice. In fact, we're kind of dialed up into everything that's going on around us, all of the external voices, which we think are ours, but they're not. And this is how we try and guide our path. So there's a lot of work to come into really actually tuning into that truth. But then the next ream of that is trusting that, which is a whole nother kind of kettle of fish. And I won't tackle that in this video. I more want to come into that broader level of what it means to come into that inner guidance. And then also just some signs and feelings and knowings that you are actually moving in the direction that you do want to. And I think the key with this is, how do I know I'm on the right path? This doubt and lack of trust or unease is going to kind of rear its head the more weighted your decision is. So say if it's like a relocation, a career choice, all of these things that carry quite a lot of change behind them, naturally, when you come up to make these types of decisions, the reason why you're going to be struggling with clarity and direction is because your fear is also going to be coming in a lot with these decisions. And so this is really about a process of understanding all of the voices or interference or signals or anything that's in your frequency when it comes to this, to really decipher that's my truth, that's not my truth, and really getting down to that nitty gritty level. So we almost, if you think of it like a radio frequency, we're just starting to shift out the frequencies that are not actually getting us to the right path. So there is work to do to get to a place where, one, you even know what your inner truth is, and then two, you trust it and you just leap off the cliff with all of your faith in whatever that true North Star end result is, going, that's where I'm going. Do I know how I'm going to get there? No, but that is a sign that you actually are truly following the right path, is you're not going to know. And I know that's uncomfortable. I'm in it right now. I have been in it for a while. There are signs and there are feelings and ways that will help you to navigate this. When we talk about inner guidance, inner compass, it's intuition, it's your inner voice. It will come to different people in different ways. It's an inner nudge, an inner knowing. You can go into the clairs and the different ways that people receive this. There's many different ways to dive into your intuition and strengthen it. But in essence, when we talk about understanding what a right path is, we're tuning into intuition. A lot of people might say they're not intuitive, yet if you think of your energy field as being full of all of the voices and things that you've picked up in your life, intuition is just one of those. Some people will be more naturally tuned into that voice than others will, because they're tuned into another voice. It's not that it's not there, it's just that they're not tuned into it. It's like, I used this metaphor the other day actually, and it's very powerful. Just because you can't see the sun, it doesn't mean it's not there. That is what intuition is. That is what the soul voice is, the voice of your truth. It's always there. You're just not tuned into it. You're not on that frequency. And so there's work to do to get into that. And so, yeah, I've always been naturally intuitive, but my intuition works slightly better on other people, because when we start to get emotionally charged, and this is why when you come up to really big decisions in life, you're like, how do I know which is the right one? You're popping on a lot of emotion into the decision. And with that emotion will come a fear of getting it wrong, a fear of failing, a fear of whatever it is. And you're lumping that into the decision, and it makes it harder to hear your truth because the fear is drowning it out. And this is honestly why most people can't get clarity or they feel lost, is because they're drowning out their truth through dialing in to the fear and the voices of fear. The fear is going to come. It is going to come. It's going to lump itself in, even when you're like, I really thought I had that right. And so for me, right, moving just this direction and making the decision to leave corporate, I've always been one of these risk averse decision makers where I jump and then I think later. And in many ways that has worked for me. In fact, most ways it's worked for me, because that is the intuition. I've made a lot of quite bold moves to leave security, or things like, right down to, I think the very first time I left corporate, where it was my big eat, pray, love year, I'm like, meh, I'm done. This doesn't feel right. I'm out. I need to get out. And I knew I needed to get out at that point. And I quit before I ever had any plan. I was like, okay, well, I was quite young, so I was going to go home, live with my parents. I'll just go work at a bar. So I was prepared to just fully walk away from my career. I made that decision. I quit. Then the fear comes in. So as I say, I jump, and then the fear comes, and then it just lumps itself onto me. And I'm like, oh, what have I done? But literally, no joke, 2 days after quitting, I received a call from the only business in the location that my parents were, doing exactly what I did as a career. And I landed that job. And that was one that I had for the year where I was saving all of my money to get overseas to do my backpacking, right? So it's an intuitive kind of knowing. Equally, I've had this most recent jump off the cliff of leaving my vice president role in corporate, very cushy. I'd moved to Sydney thinking that was it. Something was intuitively telling me this isn't the right path. You need to get out. I had been building the business and doing all the study and all of this stuff. And then I was just like, I have to go. I've got to jump. And so I did, came to Bali. Now, because the weight of this decision in and of itself, everything was unknown, and got to a point where the voice of fear got louder than the truth. And I almost had fooled myself to believing that I had totally, completely got it wrong. I was like, okay, I've got this wrong. This is not the right path. This is way too hard. Maybe I'm just going to turn back around. This doesn't feel like it's for me. Somewhere in that freak out and that low and that pity party of getting it all wrong and failure, there was still a voice saying, don't do that. And this is why we need to get in tune with these parts of us, this intuitive soul-led version, and then our fear. We need to know all of the ways that our fear is going to try and convince us that we're on the wrong path, even though we might be on the right path, and equally convince us that we need to continue on the wrong path because the right path feels too scary for us. And this is where we need to get down to, is what is our fear going to try and do? Because the right path for you will have fear. It's not going to not have fear. It's probably going to actually be quite uncomfortable, which is what mine was. And it's probably going to call you to step into spaces where you're like, I genuinely don't know what to do, where to go, how to get out of this. What am I doing? Like me. And if you're not careful, the voice of fear can catch you in these moments and pull you back onto the wrong path, not the right path. And this can be very confusing because you're like, I suddenly had a bit of a, thought that, the right path will be flow. Flow doesn't mean easy. It just means momentum. And this is a really key thing to be watching out for, where what you are looking for is flow, but not necessarily ease. But to my example of quitting and then getting a job 2 days later, and the thing that I was qualified to do in the only organization that was actually operating where my parents lived, is an example of flow. Was that job easy? No, I worked for a narcissist. She was awful. But it was still flow because it's what I needed. All I needed was the money to save. And so this is the thing, is waiting for signs or allowing the signs to come. And you can even ask, if you want to know if you're on the right path, ask, go, show me something that just kind of slots into place. Like my move to Bali this time was like, if I'm meant to be here this time, then make things go with ease. The first house I look at, I get that house. That's a flow. That's momentum. And then you want to start seeing stuff like that. If you are going down a path and you feel like you keep coming up against challenges, and you will get challenges either way because challenges are here to help us to grow. But if you keep getting them, so you keep pushing, everything you've got to do is push and force, then I'll tell you right now, that is not the right path. So that's a key sign. The right path will have momentum. It will have an essence of flow. There will be things that will just appear as and when you need them. They might not come in at the right time, which is something I'm working with at the moment, is like the timing of things. But there's signs. You're getting little signs or big signs that is like, yes, this is the right way to go. And pay attention to those, because that is your intuition, your soul telling you where to go. It can even drop in ways like the thing that I'm creating now, building now, is going to be really a global community and a membership for women. The naming of it dropped into me one day and I'm like, okay, show me that this is the right name. And I was watching 3 different sources of information and I heard it, I saw it, like the name, I'm like, got it, I've got it. Okay, we're right with that. These are the things that you want to start noticing and inviting in, is the synchronistic signs, opportunities, people. Like you might be thinking something and then you have a conversation and someone mentions it. Now, I've talked into the some of the ways that you can start to sense into if you're going in the right path. There's also signs that you're going in the wrong path. And so, as I was saying, the pushing up against the boulder, this takes me to what I would call a sliding door moment that I had, which was like such a loud indication that I was on the wrong path, but I pushed beyond it because the fear of coming into the right path overtook me in this instance. But it was when I finished my year of Eat, Pray, Love backpacking, and I ended up in London and I got my first job. I'd gone back into corporate, which is what I didn't want because I had started the journey going, well, done. I'm so done. But I needed money and I went back. I was only 3 weeks into this job and I started getting massive panic attacks. And I've never had panic attacks. This is actually the first time I've ever had them in my life. And the second last, because the last time I got the panic attacks, I actually listened, and it was when I left London. But that's interesting, actually, now that I've just clocked on that. Panic attacks are almost always a sign that something is wrong, that there's something. And I started having them, and it was because my soul wasn't wanting me to go back into that. But I was not aware enough, not awake enough. I had no idea what the right path was. I didn't have any of the tools that I've got now. I had none of them. I just went purely through fear. I was like, I don't know. I just don't know what to do. And I leaned into the wrong path, as opposed to listening. I feel going back into that moment in hindsight, I think my soul was also telling me probably not to be in London. But London ended up being a great period of my life. But equally, when it was time to go, I started getting panic attacks again. I left pretty quickly after that, to be honest. They were all centered around work and they came in, but I listened to that one. You will know when you're getting those. They're really loud. Like, if you're on the wrong path, you're going to be getting slapped in the face. Loud. The more you push down a wrong path, the louder the slaps will get for you. Like, very obvious, evident. You will know, and you might say you won't, but you do, because if you've got any of these moments where, and I've got a ton of them, where the intuition dropped in and I had a knowing. Now, this happens a lot in relationships. There was a knowing before it ended and I didn't listen, but I can recall the specific moment, the feeling in my body where I knew. And I didn't listen. These are the hits, the feelings, however it comes to you, that we need to start strengthening our connection and our trust into these, because they are trying to tell us what the right path is and we're not listening. And I've done it multiple times. And now I'm in a space where I just listen. Even when it doesn't make sense, even when it's thrown me into a massive amount of discomfort, even when I still get my fear and my ego almost wanting to try and help me, there's a distinction there where I know, and I'm like, okay, we're just going to keep going this way. And before you know it, these little tiny signs, they might be small. Even last year when there was a money thing and I was being told, just keep going, keep going. And these tiny little things came in, like I won a little scratchy card. I got something free and I'm like, oh, okay. They're tiny. Like, I feel like I'm scratching the barrel at those ones, but they're still signs like, come on, it's coming, it's coming. Just keep going, just keep going. Really become aware of those little things. And if you start anywhere, just strengthening your inner compass, your connection to it, because this is what's going to guide you to the right path. It's the only thing that's going to guide you to the right path. And on that note, because this is really central to everything I'm focused in on now, is helping people to come into that, and to a degree where, like me, you can jump off the cliff, have no idea if you're going to be caught, but still do it anyway because your intuition has told you to. And also knowing that sometimes when you make the cliff dive, you're going to land flat on your face, even if your intuition told you to. You know why? Because you had to learn the lesson to get you to the next point. That's uncomfortable. I had that last year. It's that kind of trust that we're talking about. And so, for those who are really wanting to understand and truly define, are you on the right path? Like, is this the right path for me? Am I following my truth? What is my truth? Then I have created a journey. I call it the clarity journey with the workbook as well to actually deepen in. And this is how I formed my North Star visions for what I'm creating at the moment. And it's a guided journey to go in to the heart. There is a writing component to it, which is designed. It's part of the intuition process as well. So just follow this step by step. You'll need about an hour to clear out to really, truly dive into this and just allow what comes up. And you can move through this journey as many times as you want to bring through the insights. So you cannot force intuition to give you an answer if it doesn't have it, or you're not meant to have it yet, which is also very frustrating. But just know that things drop in as they go and what you need to do. I would love to know how you go with it and what comes up. It can be super cryptic and symbolic. It depends how your intuition talks to you, honestly, and you're going to come to learn that. It will be in different ways. As I said, mine, sometimes information drops 3 times and I'm like, got it. Sometimes it's just a knowing. Like, I can't even describe that, but it's a knowing. So when I was talking about the relationship examples, it's a knowing. It's like not it. Kind of comes in like that. I get visions. I have dreams, all these different ways. Have fun with it. This is really coming back into your truth and listening to it, and start small. Just start playing with your intuition. I don't know, like on directing you different places, or where am I meant to go today? What am I meant to do? This is how we start to build our connection to it. And over time, that voice just gets louder, loud enough to the degree where we can almost fight off the fear and be like, not having it today, not today, maybe tomorrow, but not today. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. And yeah, I'll share the link below.